2017. And about an hour ago, I received an email from a gentleman at the seismology office in Mexico City, Mexico. Now, this report has nothing to do with Mexico, but he was letting me in on some information that they have been detecting seismic activity at Yellowstone National Park, the Big Caldera. Now, over the past 48 hours, I'm just going to bring up the 3D earthquake tracker, and there have been some pretty powerful earthquakes that have occurred within the last few hours. Now, one of them registered a 7.4, it was downgraded to a 7.2, and then the USGS downgraded it even more. Now, I was able to visualize this earthquake as it happened. I have the 3D earthquake tracker set up to alarm me when these earthquakes occur. And the minute that alarm went off, I looked at it and it was at a magnitude 7.4. Now, we will look at that earthquake and a few others because the magnitude of the earthquakes across the globe, once again, as I've been saying, they are increasing with their frequency and also the magnitude of these earthquakes. Now, yesterday, we had an earthquake in the most northern tour of Canada. And then, not too long after that, a very strong earthquake in the center of Greenland. Also, something that is alarming is the magnitude of earthquakes in Oklahoma is increasing. Now, we know they get small earthquakes there pretty much on a daily basis, but they're now reaching magnitude 3 and a little higher. The same thing is applying for the state of California, the west coast of South America, the west coast of Mexico, and once again, these earthquakes are reverberating back and forth across the Pacific Ocean. Now, whenever you see this type of activity, back and forth, eventually there's going to be a catastrophic earthquake either on the west coast of Mexico or somewhere within the vicinity of the South Pacific. And more than likely, it will be New Zealand. But anyways, let's get straight into this information for Yellowstone. Now, I was reading up on some information from the University of Utah, and some of the information that I'm going to show you, it's going to be quite eye-opening. And once again, we are having all of this activity matching up on these seismograms. Oh, we have an earthquake. Well, folks, these earthquakes have been going off almost every few minutes. There was just a magnitude 5.2, and that looks to be in the South Pacific, possibly in the Indonesia area again, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But I'm going to go ahead and show you this video. It's a short video, and it just talks about what would happen if Yellowstone would erupt. So I'm just going to go ahead and play it for you. Well, there you go, folks. You could see that it would be quite devastating if something like that would occur. Now, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the University of Utah and the information that I received from the University of Utah. And I'm just going to go ahead and pan down to this because it was a little disturbing. And the University of Utah, I guess they have their own seismology office. Oh, this is not the link. They do monitor everything that goes on at Yellowstone. And I'm going to go ahead and just click on this link as soon as I can find it. And as I was going over this information earlier, once again, it was a little alarming that what I saw was definitely very, very alarming. I'm just trying to find this link that I had up here earlier for the University of Utah, and here it is here. Now they have seismic devices all over this region. But before we go ahead and get to this, I want to show you this seismogram. And I'm just going to go ahead and back out of this for 1 second. And these seismograms are up to date. They refresh themselves every 30 minutes. If you watch the video that I had yesterday, we had these seismograms on there, and there was something that disturbed the earth, and it literally reverberated across the entire United States. Now, I did not have the seismogram information for the rest of the world. I just had it for the United States. And once again, this is occurring across the entire country, across the entire US. But when I received my email and it told me to go directly to the Yellowstone seismogram, when I looked at it, it just sent chills up my spine. And here it is. And again, this is the Yellowstone seismogram. It is dated for today, and this is the activity. Now, it reverberated straight across the board. There were some very, very high spikes, and for a seismologist, someone who studies earthquakes, if they were looking at this, they have to be alarmed. This couldn't be anything else but either volcanic activity or some very serious earthquake activity. Now, this is coming directly from the USGS. However, they are not pinpointing any earthquakes on the US map. Nothing, zero. So my question is, how can you have that type of seismic activity, which looks like a massive earthquake or some type of super disturbance, and not tell anybody, not post the information on the US map? And once again, I'm just going to go ahead and back out of this, but I'm going to pan all the way to the top. And once again, whatever is happening, whatever is disturbing the earth, the United States right now, it's all happening at the same time, and it's hitting every seismic device across the United States. I'm not an earthquake professional. I'm not a seismologist. I'm not a scientist. But I understand the information. You're doing this so long, you definitely begin to understand as you continue in your studies on this information. But just looking at this, yes, okay, Alaska, they have volcanic activity, they have earthquake activity. That seismogram would be fine. However, when you look over here at Albuquerque, New Mexico, you see the same anomaly at the same time. The two seismograms almost match identically if you place them on top of each other. So moving further down, Missouri, again, same time, same anomaly, just a different state. Oregon, the state of Florida. Now, I mean, honestly, I've never heard of earthquakes in the state of Florida, but apparently something is affecting the seismic device that is in place at the Disney Wilderness Preserve in Florida. We move down to Hockley, Texas, same thing. Massachusetts, the same thing. Hawaii, yes, we know Hawaii has some volcanic activity and earthquake activity. However, if you move down, it matches South Dakota. Standing Stone, Pennsylvania, again. This is the same as yesterday. However, the seismic activity seems to be stronger than it was yesterday on all of these seismograms. Okay, so we're going to move on. Tucson, Arizona, Indiana, Tennessee, Michigan, Ohio. Now, this is something very suspicious. Here's Minnesota. It goes completely offline at about the time, and all of the information is gone. Now, they either deleted it or it stopped working. But it's very suspicious how that information should be matching the information in Ohio, but it's just gone. Moving on down, Idaho, Texas. These states are very far apart from each other, but yet the seismic activity is matching. New York, Virginia, Oregon, Montana, Alabama, Wyoming, Kansas, Virginia, North Carolina. Now, state of Wisconsin, absolutely nothing. Nothing, not a peep. The seismogram is completely blank. More of Montana, more of Utah, more of South Dakota, and Alaska. Nevada, it all matches, all the same time. Erie, Pennsylvania, same thing. Now, once again, another device, seismic device in Minnesota. At this particular time frame, the information should be there. It's gone. The state of Georgia, no information. It's all unavailable. But yet, over here in Michigan, it's showing. State of Washington, state of Illinois, Idaho, more of Utah, Colorado, Texas, Wisconsin, Kansas, more of Texas, more of Montana. New Hampshire, all of the information completely gone. And here's Yellowstone, off the chart. Just completely off the chart. Now, the seismic devices, they are very, very sensitive. They can pick up wind, they can pick up vehicles, people are riding snowmobiles and quads and whatever in the park. Okay, but it's not going to register like this, and we're not going to have the same detections on the seismic devices in every single state all at the same time, especially states where we do not even have earthquake activity. But yet, in New York and Alabama, the seismic detections are identical. So what is affecting the earth? West Virginia, Arkansas, more of Texas and Montana, Colorado, more of Texas. Newport, Washington, all of the seismic information is gone. South Carolina, the same anomaly at the same time. There's almost no difference. Nebraska, Mississippi, the state of Maine, more of Montana, Iowa, Colorado, and Nevada. Tennessee, Mississippi, Oklahoma, more of Alaska, Arizona, and Oregon. It's all the same. Whatever is creating this disturbance is reverberating across the entire United States. So what is it? What is affecting the Earth at this point? Because I keep going on and on about these earthquakes. And maybe, maybe you folks are tired of hearing about it, but my point is, and again, going all the way back to the middle of the summer, July and August and September and October, I kept telling everyone that as we got into the end of 2016 and into the beginning of 2017, from the information that I was gathering in my studies, my research, and my investigations, these earthquakes would start to pick up in magnitude and frequency. And lo and behold, in November and December, well, this is what is happening. Now, we may have had more earthquakes in April and May of 2016, but right now, in the beginning of 2017, well, the proof, the evidence is there. What is being put out there is fact. There's something going on with our planet. Something is shaking and rattling and disturbing the entire globe. If something were to happen in Yellowstone, it would be catastrophic for the entire world in a matter of a week. A volcanic ash plume would make its way around the world probably in about a week to 10 days. And as you saw in the video, it would take out 3 or 4 states instantaneously. You wouldn't even know what hit you. And as far as the rest of the United States, they would feel these effects within hours and then days. It's very eye-opening. And if you sit there and you discount all of this information and you just keep your eyes closed, well, I'm sorry, can't help you. But you really do need to start listening to this information and heed the warnings. If you live in any of these states surrounding Yellowstone, hey, yeah, you don't have to get up and move. You don't have to be scared. Just be prepared. Just be prepared. Let's move to the live earthquake map. And we're just going to go ahead and refresh this, but it refreshes itself. But we're just going to go ahead and refresh it anyways. Now, just recently, within the last 50 minutes, another magnitude 5.10, Northern Mariana Islands, the Western Indian Antarctic Ridge, a couple of 5.4s, right below Australia. There was a small 2.3 in Australia. However, there was a much, much larger earthquake, Indonesia and the Philippines, and this was a definite eye-opener. I was looking up the information for this earthquake. Well, there were several. A magnitude 7.2, a 6.9, another 7.3, and a smaller 5.2. Now, you would think that because these earthquakes are out in this water basin between these islands, you would think that no one felt these earthquakes. Well, as I was looking up the information, people in the Philippines, Indonesia, and as far off as Papua New Guinea actually felt these earthquakes. And as we move on and just pan out, and this doesn't even show the earthquake activity over here in Europe. The earthquake activity over here in Europe, which will go to the European model, has definitely increased also. And we'll just flip right over to the Euro-Mediterranean model. And this is just for the last 24 hours. I mean, you can see the straight line, almost like a big check mark of earthquakes. And once again, they're moving straight up through the fault line through central Italy. And they've already been devastated by a few earthquakes in 2016. Is this just a precursor for another major event in central Italy along that fault line that runs directly up through the center of the country? I see a small earthquake a magnitude 3.0. That looks like it is in Portugal. We'll just move to the worldwide map. And this is just for the last 24 hours. Right over here in India, a 4.5. Now, there are earthquakes that are occurring in and around the Middle East and China, but they're not listing them. They're just not listing them. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Now, moving over here, you do see the earthquake, a magnitude 4.6, and that was like almost dead center in the middle of Greenland. And this was the earthquake in the northern tier of Canada. There's a bunch of little islands up here, and it's mainly encased in solid ice. But yet, you know, this magnitude 5.7, there were several earthquakes in this area, and I believe that one of them was much, much bigger than a 5.2. But going back to Yellowstone, I was looking at the information from the University of Utah, and I was trying to match up what I was seeing on the seismogram from the USGS. And even though this information is about 1 day behind, and you can click on these little orange and black triangles, and it will pull up a seismogram that is detected by the University of Utah. And I was going around here and just looking at some of the seismograms, and this is from yesterday, the 9th of January. This is Yellowstone. So, I mean, once again, this is not normal activity. Yes, they do have seismic activity on a daily basis with geysers blowing off, you know, the volcanoes and small earthquake tremors. But this seismogram and the other seismogram for today from the USGS, very alarming. Very alarming. So if anybody has any ideas on what is going on that could be affecting the entire United States, as far as all of these seismograms all having the same detection at the same time from one end of the country to the other end of the country. What's happening? What is happening? I mean, like I said the other day, you can take a look at the 3D earthquake tracker. This is just for the last less than 24 hours. You know, I can turn down the detection circles so you can have a more clear view of the actual earthquakes. Earthquakes on the Atlantic Ridge fault line, straight up through the Atlantic Ocean. We've had several of those this week. I mean, once again, this is 24 hours, and again, the Earth looks like a pincushion. The state of California right now is being just ripped apart by the storms, the mudslides, the flooding, and the potential ice melt and snow melt from the Sierra Nevada mountains. Now, I haven't even gotten into what's happening with the weather, and it seems like this massive polar vortex of Arctic temperatures is literally sinking into areas of the world where they don't really experience these types of temperatures. So what is happening? Is the Earth about to go into a mini ice age? How long will it last? Will it get worse? These are all valid questions that I think we all deserve to have the answers to. Because if people in certain countries where they don't experience this type of weather, all of a sudden their temperatures are dropping into the teens, well, they're not used to this type of weather. And people are going to die. It's very, very eye-opening to see what's happening. Do we have direct causes? Again, I have my theories. That's all they are. I don't have 100% the smoking gun evidence because I don't have the technology. But I'm sure the people that work for the governments around the world, I'm sure they have the information. They're not releasing it. They're not saying anything. Yeah, you'll probably see some information about weird snowfall in northern India and the mess that's being created right now in the state of California. But are you going to hear about these devastating earthquakes that are increasing in magnitude and frequency? No. You're not going to hear about anything unless it's a super major earthquake and there is so much damage and death that the mainstream media will now pick that up because that sells their advertising. Death and destruction, not informing the people on the possibilities of what might be happening. Not just a simple warning to the people in New Zealand who may eventually, in the next several days, incur a major, major earthquake like they had a few months ago. I mean, they downplayed those earthquakes in New Zealand, but they were devastating. Sure, there wasn't a major loss of life, but a lot of the infrastructure on roads and mountainsides was destroyed. We all saw what happened in Italy in the central part of the state. One small town and village just wiped off the map. The prediction models were there, but did they warn anyone in that region of Italy? No, they did not. So you can't sit there and tell me with today's technology and all of these smart people working at NASA and all of these seismology offices and scientists, all of these people with all of their technology, they can't tell us what's about to happen. Even a basic forecast. Listen, if any of you listen to Dutch Since on YouTube, I mean, his earthquake forecasting is spot on. I mean, you can't pinpoint things perfectly, but the science that he's developed with forecasting these earthquakes is spot on. Now, there are a few earthquake apps that are available for Android phones. I'm not sure if they have it for Apple. I'm sure Apple has something similar, but I use one on my cell phone. It's connected directly to a website that details volcanic and earthquake activity all over the world. And it will literally send an alert to your phone. So if you live in any of these areas where you're prone to earthquake activity or volcanic activity, I mean, this is an application on your cell phone that you should have. It links directly to a website. It's called Discovery Volcano. You can go directly to the website, and there is a link to click on for the app. You can set the notifications. It follows you using the GPS in your cell phone, and you can set it for volcanic or earthquake activity in your area, and it will follow you using the GPS in your cell phone. So if you're living in one of these areas and you have family, a wife and kids in school and things of that nature, and you're doing your daily job, how are you going to know that something has occurred? You're not going to have any warning. Well, this application I feel is the best out there. I've tested it for the last few months, and the information comes through almost immediately. So what's happening right now at Yellowstone, it's very alarming. I mean, if somebody can explain this to me and just tell me, oh, okay, this is what happened. But how are you going to go back and explain to me what just happened the last 2 days in a row in almost every state in this country on these seismograms, all at the same time, just different states? So I'm going to leave you with that. I'll put links to all of this information in the description box under this video. And I'm going to keep my eye on what's happening in Yellowstone. I'm also going to keep my eye on these seismograms because, once again, this is just very, very odd. I've looked at these seismograms many, many, many times. Okay, they're never all the same. And this is only telling me one thing, that there is something large that's disturbing the United States. And not only disturbing the United States, whatever's occurring here in the United States, this has to be disturbing the entire globe. So don't be scared, just be prepared. Just be prepared. If you live in any of these areas where you have seismic activity, be prepared. Download this app. I'll leave a link to the volcano, the Discovery Volcano website that has the link for the app. Download it on your phone. Stay informed. Open up your eyes. Listen. We're definitely heading into an emergency situation very soon. I can feel it in my bones just by looking at this information day after day. It's not making any sense. So please stay tuned to the Nibiru channel. We're going to have another update soon on what's happening out in California, because the information that I'm getting from California and Nevada, they're already under some very, very, very serious situations with the flooding. So once again, everybody, there's something going on. We need to put our finger on it. We need to find more information, and eventually we'll get it. I'll be on top of this for the rest of today. Thank you for watching. I'd like to thank all of our Nibiru watchers. You guys do a fantastic job. Would also like to thank you for your loyal subscribership. You can continue to email your photographs and your video to NibiruPlanetX2016@gmail.com. And don't forget to share our videos with your friends and family members on Facebook. And subscribe to the Nibiru channel for all of our current updates. And like I always say, keep an eye in the sky. Everybody, welcome back to the Nibiru channel. It is January 10th, 2017. And about an hour ago, I received an email from a gentleman at the seismology office in Mexico City, Mexico. Now, this report has nothing to do with Mexico, but he was letting me in on some information that they have been detecting seismic activity at Yellowstone National Park, the Big Caldera. Now, over the past 48 hours, I'm just going to bring up the 3D earthquake tracker, and there have been some pretty powerful earthquakes that have occurred within the last few hours. Now, one of them registered a 7.4, it was downgraded to a 7.2, and then the USGS downgraded it even more. Now, I was able to visualize this earthquake as it happened. I have the 3D earthquake tracker set up to alarm me when these earthquakes occur. And the minute that alarm went off, I looked at it and it was at a magnitude 7.4. Now, we will look at that earthquake and a few others, because the magnitude of the earthquakes across the globe, once again, as I've been saying, they are increasing with their frequency and also the magnitude of these earthquakes. Now, yesterday, we had an earthquake in the most northern tour of Canada. And then, not too long after that, a very strong earthquake in the center of Greenland. Also, something that is alarming is the magnitude of earthquakes in Oklahoma is increasing. Now, we know they get small earthquakes there pretty much on a daily basis, but they're now reaching magnitude 3 and a little higher. The same thing is applying for the state of California, the west coast of South America, the west coast of Mexico, and once again, these earthquakes are reverberating back and forth across the Pacific Ocean. Now, whenever you see this type of activity, back and forth, eventually there's going to be a catastrophic earthquake either on the west coast of Mexico or somewhere within the vicinity of the South Pacific. And more than likely, it will be New Zealand. But anyways, let's get straight into this information for Yellowstone. Now, I was reading up on some information from the University of Utah, and some of the information that I'm going to show you, it's going to be quite eye-opening. And once again, we are having all of this activity matching up on these seismograms. Oh, we have an earthquake. Well, folks, these earthquakes have been going off almost every few minutes. There was just a magnitude 5.2, and that looks to be in the South Pacific, possibly in the Indonesia area again, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But I'm going to go ahead and show you this video. It's a short video, and it just talks about what would happen if Yellowstone would erupt. So I'm just going to go ahead and play it for you.